Reveal divine power. Transform your life through this miraculous self-talk ritual in 3 days. In the heart of a quaint English village, Jonathan's life felt like a shadow of its former self. Once a beloved figure at the local bakery, where he spread warmth and freshly baked goods, now he faced a harsh reality. The cobblestone streets seemed narrower, the blooming hedges less vibrant, and the sweet chimes of church bells echoed with a haunting reminder of his financial struggles. But amidst his despair, a flicker of hope arose in the form of an ancient ritual he had long forgotten. Whispers of miraculous transformations filled the air, stories passed down through generations about the divine intercession of St. Jude, patron saint of desperate cases. Jonathan felt a sensation coursing through his veins as he recalled them, infusing his spirit with an urgency to reclaim his faith. 3 days. Was the mantra that lodged in his heart, a call to action echoing through the quiet corners of the village church where he sought solace. On the first day, as the early morning sun streamed through stained glass windows, Jonathan clutched an old prayer booklet he had unearthed from the church library. Its pages radiated an inviting warmth, as if the words themselves held a heavenly glow. He read aloud affirmations that felt like divine whispers folded into each syllable. I am cherished, I am capable, abundance flows to me. With every affirmation, a swell of hope filled his heart, the walls of doubt beginning to crumble. Later, his wife, Ellen, raised an eyebrow, her worry wrinkling her brow. Jonathan, it's just words, she countered, the storm of uncertainty brewing in her eyes. How can that help us? Her voice, once a melody of support, now pierced through his newfound resolve, planting seeds of doubt that thrived in silence. The air grew heavy as Jonathan fought against the clutches of despair tightening around him, but deep within, he clung to the whispers of St. Jude. Yet with the setting sun came an unexpected turn. A gathering of villagers watched, their hushed voices swirling like a gathering storm. Rumors of Jonathan's ritual crested into skeptical murmurs and curious glances, drawing him further into isolation. The once warm embrace of community felt like a tightening vice, and in a moment of desperation, he retreated back to the church. St. Jude, hear my plea, he cried, tears streaming down his face, his heart laid bare. It was here, amid flickering candles casting a gentle glow, that he felt the stirrings of something extraordinary. A warmth enveloped him, igniting hope that coursed through his veins, repeating the affirmations like a mantra. I am loved. I am beloved. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Miraculously, during a sun-drenched Sunday service, a fellow parishioner rose to pray. The words flowed like a river of faith, merging hearts like knots of vines as the congregation swayed to the rhythm of their murmured affirmations. In that electrifying moment, Jonathan felt an undeniable connection, a surge of divine energy igniting the sanctuary. He watched, heart racing, as those around him erupted into waves of faith, leaving the air thick with holy anticipation. As the collective belief wove itself through the congregation like a delicate tapestry, Jonathan knew something transformative was happening. Whispers of potential miracles swirled around him, racing through the village. Would this pulse of faith be the turning point for Jonathan? Would his family's struggles fade like the darkness before dawn? The church held its breath, the atmosphere charged with divine promise, waiting for the next chapter of their intertwined journeys to unfold. The days unfolded like petals of a blooming flower, each revealing deeper layers of hope and uncertainty. Jonathan awoke on the second morning feeling the warm rays of sunlight embracing him, filling his room with a golden glow. The affirmations he had repeated echoed softly in his mind. I am cherished, I am capable, abundance flows to me. They became more than mere words, they transformed into a lifeline, an anchor amid turbulent waters. Ellen stirred beside him, still clouded by worry. It's just the same cycle, Jonathan, she whispered hoarsely, her eyes betraying her fear. What if nothing changes? What if we lose everything? Jonathan reached for her hand, squeezing it gently, wanting to pour strength into her uncertain heart. But what if it does change? What if we bring our fears to St. Jude and let him carry them? We can't turn away from hope. Ellen hesitated, her deep breaths mingling with the morning's fragrance of dew-soaked grass. You truly believe this? She asked, a flicker of vulnerability glinting in her eyes. I have to, he replied firmly. Today we'll lean into belief. Let us pray, for even the smallest spark of faith can ignite a wildfire of change. As they ventured to the church later that day, Jonathan felt a grounding presence, the very stones beneath his feet infused with the prayers of countless souls who had walked that sacred path before him. Once inside, the hushed atmosphere resonated with a choir of whispers, prayers nestled like warm bread awaiting the rising sun. He knelt at the altar, the flickering candles casting warm, dancing shadows. St. Jude, patron of lost causes, guide our hearts. His voice trembled with sincerity. Ellen joined him, and together they released their fears into the ether, hoping that the light they sought would begin to break the chains of despair. As the couple left the church, Jonathan spotted an old friend, Mary, sitting on a bench. She was known for her loving spirit, having cared for so many in the village. Jonathan, Ellen. Have you heard about the new bakery opening soon? They need bakers. A spark flared in Jonathan's heart. Perhaps this was the sign he had prayed for. I might give it a go, he said, excitement creeping between the cracks of his worries. But Ellen's expression clouded again. What if it fails? We can't afford to take risks right now. Jonathan took a deep breath, the weight of doubt growing heavier. Trust. Just trust, he implored, recalling the sacred energy he felt at the church. If St. Jude could inspire faith, surely he could kindle hope in his own family. Later that evening, Jonathan promised himself he would immerse deeper in his affirmations. He lit candles at home, each flicker reminding him of the vitality of prayer. I am loved. I am beloved. I am guided. The walls of his own insecurities began to crack, and, unexpectedly, he felt anew the warmth that had swept through him at the altar. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. A neighbor stood on the threshold, her face aglow and eyes wide with an urgency that turned Jonathan's heart. You must come quickly. There's been news. With those simple words, the mantle of destiny swayed, and Jonathan knew this was pivotal. Every whispered prayer, every affirmation, had led him to this moment. What awaited him on the other side of the door? And how would divine power manifest in their lives now? The night hung thick with a divine mystery, cradling the unforeseen journey ahead. Jonathan exchanged a glance with Ellen, their hearts racing with possibilities unspoken. The urgency in their neighbor's voice sent a shiver down his spine. He opened the door wider, inviting her into the small, dimly lit space that felt suddenly charged with expectation. What news? Ellen asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The neighbor stepped inside and took a breath as if gathering courage. It's about the old bakery on Main Street. It's being given a fresh start. They need someone with experience, someone who believes in second chances. Jonathan's heart soared. Was this an answer to his yearning? A glimmer of hope shining through the cracks of their uncertainty? Do you think it could be? He began, but Ellen's worried expression clashed with his rising excitement. Will they really give a chance to someone like us? She asked, doubt creeping back into her voice. What if we're not ready? What if it all falls through? Ellen, Jonathan said gently, what if this is the opportunity we've been waiting for? We talked about trusting in St. Jude, didn't we? The neighbor nodded, her enthusiasm dimming slightly under Ellen's shadow of fear. I believe they could use a heartwarming touch, maybe a fresh recipe or a new idea. Jonathan turned to Ellen and held her hand steady in his. We've brought our fears to the altar. We prayed for guidance. Here it is. Right at our doorstep. Ellen looked from Jonathan to the neighbor, her brow furrowed with uncertainty. The whispers of doubt still clung to her, but somewhere deep down, a tiny flicker of hope flickered to life in her heart. If we say yes, she ventured, we would need all the support we can get. Exactly. And I'm here for you, Jonathan reassured her, grounding her worries with every word. Every day can be a prayer in action. We won't know until we try. The neighbor's eyes sparkled with a gentle encouragement. Maybe this is part of the miracle in waiting. Some opportunities need a little faith to manifest. Jonathan squeezed Ellen's hands, channeling sunlight into the shadows that threatened to swallow them whole. Let us consider it a blessing, a chance to create something beautiful amid the ruins. As they stood there together, the air thickened with unspoken promises. The aroma of fresh bread wafted through the memories of baking they had shared and the dreams that whispered along the edges of their hearts. Ellen took a deep breath, contemplating the words that hung in the air. If we do this, it needs to be from our hearts. Every loaf, every pie, it should carry our story, our hope. Yes. Jonathan beamed with renewed fervor. Each recipe can be a prayer. We'll pour our love into it. St. Jude will guide our hands. For a moment, time seemed to pause. The only sound was their synchronized breathing, a sacred rhythm building within their souls. Ellen looked at their neighbor with newfound hope. How do we start? As the neighbor explained the details, Jonathan felt a divine presence enveloping them. The shadows of the past began to melt away like morning fog, and in that moment, the future glittered with possibility. The evening stretched, rich with purpose and unity. Jonathan's heart pulsed with gratitude, and he whispered words of affirmation over their plans. They spoke of the bakery, laughter mingling with dreams. And yet, beneath that fervor lay a profound tug at Jonathan's spirit, a sense that this was just the beginning. Something greater awaited them, a transformation yet to unfold. Could it be they had stepped into more than just a bakery venture? Was this path one that led them closer to their true selves? As they closed the door against the evening chills, Jonathan's heart beat in harmony with the divine pulse of life. Whatever the future held, he knew they were walking with purpose, framed by prayer and knitted together by love. The question remained, though, what further mysteries lay ahead on this sacred journey? What greater purpose awaited just beyond the horizon of their bravery? As dawn broke, the world outside glimmered with a golden hue, promising a day layered with fresh hope. Jonathan awoke before the sun fully graced the sky, his heart a restless bird fluttering with excitement and trepidation. Today was not just another day, it was an inviting doorway to their dreams that he moved through quiet morning rituals, each action taken in prayer. In the soft flicker of candlelight, he whispered gratitude to St. Jude, asking for guidance as they prepared for the upcoming bakery venture. He envisioned the tender dough rising, the wafting scent of warm bread filling small-town hearts with joy. Meanwhile, Ellen stirred beneath the soft covers, stirring lightly as the sun's rays peeked through. Jonathan's heart swelled as he watched her. His love for her deepened with the thought of their shared dream, a bakery that would be a cradle for hope, kindness, and community spirit. When she finally emerged, her eyes still heavy with sleep, Jonathan saw a spark flickering at the edges. "Morning," he greeted, wrapping her in a warm embrace. "Today feels special, doesn't it?" Ellen nodded, her smile slowly blooming like a flower catching dawn's first light. "It does. It feels electric." They sat at the small wooden table, poring over plans. Ellen spread out papers doodling mixed ideas of sweet and savory. Every sketch was like a prayer lifted from her heart. "This could be our little piece of heaven," she murmured, a soft glow warming her cheeks. "You know," Jonathan spoke, his voice softer now, "it's not really just about the baking. It's about what we share with each other and everyone who comes through our doors. Every pie, every loaf is like the arms of God welcoming the weary." A moment of silence enveloped them as that sentiment settled deep. They both knew how healing it could be to find joy in simple acts, an honest smile, a gentle touch, or even the first slice from the oven. As they prepared for the day, doubts flickered like shadows just beyond their reach. What if we fail? Ellen voicing her fears again, tracing the edges of fork and knife with her fingers. Jonathan looked into her eyes, seeking the light that danced within them. "But what if we soar?" he countered. "Every angel has its wings unfolded when they choose to trust. Just like St. Jude, who shows us faith provides when all seems lost." Ellen took a deep breath, her spirit stirring beneath the surface. "You're right. We need to believe in what we're creating together." Emboldened, they set out to visit the bakery, hand in hand, hearts aligned in purpose. When they arrived, an old sign creaked softly in the wind, layered with memories. The scent of flour and sugar echoed through the air like a lullaby, pulling them into a world of nostalgia and possibility. Inside, the space felt alive. Dust motes danced in the sunbeams, and Jonathan swore he could hear the laughter of children and chatter of neighbors from days gone by. They could reclaim this, transform it, breathe life back into it. I can see it, people pouring in, children licking frosting, and laughter spilling out the door, Ellen said, her face glowing with wonder. Jonathan's heart soared. Yes. And every loaf can tell a story. Our story. Just then, a sudden chill washed over him, an intuitive tug deep in his chest. It reminded him that with each leap into faith, one might meet trial. Ellen, whatever we face, let us promise to lean into the grace guiding us. Even when times are tough, we must remember the light. This is what we're building together. They locked eyes, a pact of strength forged in that moment. Yet, Jonathan couldn't shake the sense that this was just the tip of an extraordinary journey. Outside, clouds gathered in the distance, casting shadows over the sunlit street. Thunder rolled softly, as if the heavens themselves were preparing for the unfolding drama of their endeavor. What challenges awaited them in the weeks to come? Was the sacred guidance they sought truly strong enough to carry them through? As they stepped outside, the world loomed larger, and Jonathan's pulse quickened with anticipation. There was a divine mystery ahead, and together, they would chase it until their dreams became reality. What did God have in store for them in this adventure? The morning air was thick with possibility as Jonathan and Ellen stood before the old bakery, eyes bright, hearts ready. With every brick and beam, the building whispered tales of hope long forgotten. It felt like a sacred space, waiting for the right spirit to breathe life into it once more. Ellen reached for Jonathan's hand, squeezing it tight, a blend of nervous energy and determination coursing through her veins. You feel that? She asked, her gaze flicking to the clouds beginning to loom. Like the earth is alive, Jonathan replied softly, looking upward. It's as if the universe is watching us, cheering us on. With hesitation shifting into resolve, they pushed through the door. The old hinges creaked in protest, yet the sound felt like an anthem. Jonathan inhaled deeply, savoring the aroma of decades of baked goods embedded in the walls, a sweet reminder of what had been and what could be once again. Ellen swayed, her eyes gleaming. Let us make it our own. Every detail counts. She moved through the space as if dancing, her fingers brushing the counter that had sold countless loaves to happy faces. Jonathan watched her, feeling a swell of love for this woman who shared his dream and was as much a part of this place as the dough they would soon need. But then, beneath the excitement, doubts crept uninvited. A flicker of fear nagged at his thoughts. Would they succeed? Could they bring this bakery to life, worthy of the community's love? He shook the feeling away, recalling their morning intentions, believing in what they were building together. Shall we start with the back? He suggested, steering them toward the kitchen. Grime from years past lingered in the corners, but the sight ignited Ellen's energy. Imagine it. We'll need a fresh coat of paint, new ovens, and a case for pastries. Ellen exclaimed, her voice full of enthusiasm. What do you think would resonate with everyone? Jonathan smiled at her infectious spirit. Something homemade. Like Grandma's pie. Maybe even include stories that tell where they came from. People cherish connection just as much as the food. Ellen nodded vigorously. Yes. A community cookbook. As they plotted and planned, hearts aligned like a freshly rolled dough. The clouds rolled in darker. A low rumble reverberated through the air, blending with the fervor in their voices. Let us break for lunch, Jonathan said, their morning vigor still fresh. As they settled on a nearby park bench, the first drops of rain graced the ground. Ellen gazed at the sky. It's like a cleansing, isn't it? Like God's presence is here with us, nurturing our joy. Absolutely. Jonathan closed his eyes for a moment, letting the rain cleanse his spirit. But we must remember, with every blessing, there can also be storms. A silence enveloped them before Ellen broke it. Sometimes, storms are needed to make way for growth. Jonathan looked at her, wonder filling his heart. You're wise beyond your years. It's all part of the journey, right? The tackling of fears, the pressing of flower, it's all shaping who we are meant to be. As the rain danced around them, his chest felt lighter, warmth spreading like melted butter over bread. In that moment, Jonathan realized this venture wasn't just about bread or pastries. It was about facing trials and trusting God's unfolding plan. With renewed fervor, they headed back to the bakery, ready to tackle whatever lay ahead. As they crossed the threshold, something monumental shifted in the air. The walls seemed to hum with promises of success. United in vision, they began clearing away years of neglect. Every sweep of dust felt like a prayer, every scrap collected a burden released. Yet deep in Jonathan's heart, an echo remained. What trials awaited them beyond this beginning? He looked at Ellen, who now knelt to scrub the floor, a fierce determination lighting her face. And in that silence, as purpose filled the room with hope, could they truly face the hardships that may come? Jonathan's pulse quickened, sensing that the path ahead was anything but predictable. What blessings and challenges lay hidden in the heart of their new beginning? As they worked, Jonathan felt a spark of divine energy rise within him. The old bakery, with its weary walls, now thrummed with possibilities. Dust motes danced in the light streaming through the windows, twinkling like stars in a vast universe. What had once felt like a forgotten relic was now alive, pulsing with hope. Ellen's laughter echoed off the walls as she uncovered an old flour bin, remnants of bread long since surrendered to time. Look at this. We could use it for our baking supplies. The children in the community will love seeing something new with an old tale attached to it. She spun around, her joy lighting up the dim corners like a beacon. Yes. It's all about breathing life into each space, giving new meaning to the familiar. Jonathan replied, a smile breaking across his face. As they began tossing ideas back and forth, visions of bustling mornings filled with laughter and love swirled around them, but even amidst their lively banter, Jonathan felt a shadow pass. A thought tugged at his heart. The bakery's past lingered like a ghost. Could they turn the page, away from failures that had darkened these walls? Fear flickered in his chest. Ellen, he said hesitantly, what if we're not enough? What if all our dreams crumble like stale bread? She paused, her brow furrowing, a moment of stillness settling over the warmth. When I first thought about this, I worried too. But then I realized. She took a breath, her eyes shining with understanding. Every single trial only brings us closer to what we're meant to be. We must embrace the unknown. It could lead us to exactly what God intended. Her words soaked into Jonathan's spirit, alleviating the weight he had felt. You're right. We need to place our trust beyond ourselves. God's guiding us. That notion resonated deeply with him. A pulsating assurance began to fill the gaps of his doubt, pushing through like yeast in dough. With renewed spirits, they rolled up their sleeves, diving deep into their mission. The rhythmic sound of scrubbing echoed in the sanctuary they were building. As Ellen hummed a soft tune, Jonathan lost himself in the task, each scrape of grime against the floorboard feeling like an offering of devotion. Then, an unexpected noise drew their attention. A sudden crash came from the back room, sending a jolt through the air. Shoulders tensed, they exchanged wary looks. What was that? Jonathan whispered, his heart racing. Let's check it out. Ellen said, an adventurous glimmer flickering in her eyes, blending courage with curiosity. They moved cautiously toward the sound, hearts pounding in unison. When they threw open the door, a gust of cool air pushed past them. A broken shelf lay sprawled on the floor, splintered wood and dust scattered like fallen leaves. Atop the mess, they spotted an old cookbook, its pages yellowed but intact. Ellen gasped, her voice barely more than a whisper. This could be something special. Jonathan knelt beside Ellen, carefully lifting the book. Each page, worn but filled with stories, contained more than mere recipes. It held a history rich with flavors woven into the lives of those who came before them. What if this is the key? He breathed, realization lighting his eyes. We could share these recipes and stories through our bakery, creating a bridge between generations. Ellen nodded, her enthusiasm pulsing like the heartbeat of the bakery itself. Yet even as they shared in the excitement, Jonathan couldn't shake the feeling that this discovery heralded more than just cherished recipes. Do you think God led us to this moment? He pondered, glancing around the room as though waiting for answers from the walls. Absolutely. Ellen rejoiced, it's just the beginning. But there's a divine rhythm to all this. It feels like life's about to unfold in ways we can't even fathom. But what does he want from us next? As they absorbed the gravity of their find, a flicker of uncertainty drew close. Beneath the excitement, a yearning sown deeply in the bakery beckoned them to trust beyond the scene. What journey awaited them with this precious cookbook? What blessings would emerge from their willingness to listen? And could the echoes of the past truly guide them into a thriving future? They locked eyes, understanding this moment was but a thread woven in a much larger tapestry, and together they stood on the precipice ready to unveil the divine plan ahead. With the cookbook cradled in their hands, a hush enveloped the room, wrapping around them like a soft, comforting blanket. The light from the window dimmed slightly, as if the universe held its breath, waiting for what would happen next. Jonathan's heart raced, a mixture of anticipation and awe flooding his veins. What do we do with it? Jonathan asked, his voice almost a whisper, heavy with reverence. Ellen traced her fingers over the spine of the book thoughtfully. I think we start by reading it together. There might be something in here that can guide our first menu or maybe even our mission. He nodded, taking a moment to absorb her words. They settled onto the floor amidst the quiet debris around them, the weight of urgency flickering between them, enhancing their shared resolve. Gently, Ellen opened the book, revealing a world of recipes that had once breathed life into the bakery. As Ellen read the first recipe aloud, the scents of wheat and honey seemed to rise into the air, painting a vivid picture. Just imagine, she said excitedly, a cozy morning filled with the scent of fresh cinnamon rolls. Children laughing while they enjoyed their first bite. Her eyes sparkled with inspiration. Beautiful, Jonathan replied, leaning closer, envisioning the scene she painted. The bakery would soon be alive, bustling with joy and warmth. Yet, another thought nagged at him. What if it's not just about the bread? What if it's about the connections we forge? His voice trembled. Each loaf we bake can tell a story. We could bring our community together, remind them of their roots, their people. Ellen's expression turned reflective. Yes. And what if we include a little note with each purchase, sharing the history behind the recipe? It could be a way to revive old memories for the elders and spark curiosity in the young. A feeling of unity surged through them as they envisioned the bakery as more than just a place to buy bread. This could be a sanctuary for stories, a crossroad for old and young alike. Yet, the flicker of fear loomed nearby. What if it all falls flat, Ellen? Jonathan murmured, a doubt creeping back in. What if the community doesn't resonate with our vision? She placed a reassuring hand on his arm, grounding him. Remember, faith isn't about certainty. It's about stepping out even when we're unsure. God has shared this moment with us for a reason. We can't control how people respond, but we can express our love and trust Him with the rest. Jonathan breathed in deeply, feeling his fears wash away like grains of flour in the mix. Ellen's unwavering conviction reignited the spark within him. You're right, he said with newfound determination. We must trust in this journey, sow seeds of love into our community. As they continued to read, the stories intertwined with the recipes began weaving a tapestry of hope and faith. Memories flowed like rivers, connecting the past with the present. Laughter, joy, and even tears seemed to surface as they savored every page. Suddenly, a warm draft swept through the room, swirling around them, filling their hearts with inexplicable peace. Jonathan exchanged a glance with Ellen, each of them feeling the weight of something sacred. Could this be God's presence, affirming their path? In that instant, a thought struck him. What if we invite the community to help us with the first baking session? Make it a shared experience. Ellen's eyes widened in excitement. Yes. An open day, where families come to share their stories and skills. It could be a gathering of hearts. They rushed to jot down ideas, driven by a divine impulse that urged them forward. With each word they wrote, they felt an overwhelming sense of purpose anchoring them. Yet, In the midst of their enthusiasm, Jonathan wondered, would this truly be the beginning? As they stood at the threshold of their mission, each new insight raised countless questions. How would the community respond? What hidden challenges awaited them? Jonathan took a deep breath, surrendering to the divine mystery unfolding around them. What awaited them as they moved into this new chapter of shared faith and community? Would they be prepared for the divine encounters ahead, waiting to be uncovered through the warmth of their bakery? Hand in hand, filled with hope and trepidation, they were ready to step into the unknown, but the real journey had only just begun. With hearts aflame and spirits ignited by a shared vision, Jonathan and Ellen focused on the next steps. They felt it in the air, a stirring of something greater than themselves. The room, once filled with dust and shadows, seemed to vibrate with life, urging them onward. "Let us set a date for the open day," Jonathan proposed, his mind racing with possibilities. "The sooner we start, the better." The thought of rolling out dough surrounded by laughter thrilled him. Ellen nodded enthusiastically, her smile suffused with warmth. "How about next weekend? That gives us a full week to prepare." "Next weekend it is." His heart raced, feeling the echo of those who would soon walk through their doors. Jonathan envisioned families gathering, children playing, and elders sharing tales of yesteryear. Each moment punctuated with the comforting aroma of baking bread and sweets. But as they moved to plan out their dream, a shadow loomed in Jonathan's heart. "What if nobody shows up?" he said, the fear creeping back in, wrapping around him like a shadow. "What if we've misjudged everything?" Ellen met his gaze, her eyes seasoned with understanding. "We can't control the outcome, only the effort we put in. Each action is a seed planted. If even one person finds joy or connection, it's worth it." Jonathan felt a glimmer of hope pushing back against his worries. "You're right. We have to trust that we're doing this for the right reasons." They spent hours drafting a flyer, scribbling down details, the weight of their mission illuminating their hearts with determination. The Bakers' Union hadn't been just about feeding mouths, it felt like a revival, a rekindling of gentle fires that warmed them all. As the days unfolded, they found themselves enveloped in a whirlwind of activity. The community buzzed as word spread. Faces both familiar and new approached Jonathan and Ellen, excited to contribute. "Can I bring my grandmother's secret pastry recipe?" asked a wide-eyed girl, her voice chiming with hope. "I used to bake with my dad every Saturday," a man exclaimed. "I'd love to help carry the tradition on with my kids. Just tell me what I can do." With every word exchanged, they witnessed connections weaving together. This was more than baking, it was a tapestry of lives intermingling, hearts converging under one roof. But just as excitement soared, Jonathan still felt twinges of doubt lurking at the edges of his mind. What if their simple act of love couldn't withstand scrutiny? What if all their efforts crumbled like an undercooked loaf? "Deep down, I know we're doing the right thing," he mused to Ellen one night, tired but content. "Yet, I can't shake a fear of failure." Ellen squeezed his hand, gratitude blooming in her chest. "Let go of the fears. Release them into the universe. The outcome isn't ours to determine. Our hearts are rooted in love, and no love is ever wasted." As they prepared the bakery, a sacred atmosphere settled around them like a warm embrace. Each ingredient became a promise, every recipe infused with their dream of connection and hope. Then, the day arrived. As Jonathan and Ellen stood outside their bakery, hearts pounding together in anticipation, they marveled at the line forming at the door. Each face reflected youthful excitement, an eagerness for shared stories and united joy. "Look at them," Ellen breathed, tears brimming in her eyes. They showed up. It was overwhelming questions, laughter, the sound of hands clapping, all merging within the sacred space of their bakery. The warmth from the oven mingled with warmth of hearts, each soul present animated by a divine purpose unbeknownst to them. But amid the joy, Jonathan's heart beat with a question that lingered just below the surface. Would this gathering blossom into the community relationship they dreamed of, or would it merely be a fleeting moment before the world spun back to its mundane rhythm? As bread baked, stories were shared, and laughter filled the air, Jonathan couldn't shake the thought. What revelations would unfold among the gathered hearts? Were they ready for lines of destiny to intertwine in unexpected ways? Only time would unveil the rest of this beautiful journey. The sun cast its warmth over the bustling bakery, illuminating faces aglow with anticipation. As the doors swung open, waves of laughter spilled into the street. People mingled and shared, their voices blending into a melodic symphony of community thriving. Jonathan stood behind the counter, kneading dough, his hands working as if guided by an unseen hand, each push and fold a dedication. The rich scent of freshly baked bread enveloped the room, filling each corner with homey familiarity. He glanced around, soaking in the sight of families gathered at tables, exchanging recipes, and recounting memories over shared treats. Ellen moved gracefully among the guests, her laughter ringing like bells, a gentle encouragement that bolstered the spirit of the room. "Can you believe it?" she exclaimed, her eyes twinkling with joy. "Look how everyone is connecting." Jonathan nodded, his heart swelling with gratitude. Yet, that lingering doubt still nudged him, a stubborn companion. What if all this was an illusion? What if their shared joy faded as quickly as it had come? In that moment of uncertainty, an elderly woman approached, her gentle smile radiating wisdom. "You two have created something truly special here," she said softly, lightly touching Jonathan's shoulder. "This is not just about bread, it's about breaking isolation, forging bonds." Her words ignited a flicker of peace within him. Perhaps their mission wasn't merely about gathering for pastries, perhaps it transcended the physical. As the warmth radiated from the oven, he could feel the soft, pulsing heartbeat of a community coming alive. A child let out a joyful squeal, holding a freshly iced cookie, her eyes wide with wonder. "Can I taste it now?" she asked, clearly impatient for a sweet bite. Her innocence was a reminder of the simple joy that lies within life's shared moments. The laughter exploded around them as people exchanged goodies, flavors mingling in delicious chaos. Jonathan felt the atmosphere thickening, charged with goodwill. It was as if the bakery itself had become a sacred space, a holy gathering where individual spirits fused, creating a greater whole. But in the depths of Jonathan's thoughts, the question lingered: how could they sustain this spirit of unity beyond just one day? Just as hope flickered, he heard Ellen's voice, assuring and gentle. "Jonathan, remember how we began this?" she whispered, leaning close to him. "It was about connection, not perfection. Let this be an ongoing conversation, not just a one-time event. We will invite them back, keep the door open wide." His heartbeat quickened at the thought. This was not merely a bakery, but a sanctuary of stories, traditions, and renewed prayers. It would be a space where the broken could be mended, and the lonely flocked together in unity. Every loaf, every pastry offered was an invitation to deeper connection. As the afternoon sun began to set, painting the sky in golden hues, a hush fell. With the sound of a ringing bell, a stranger, a young man with travel-worn shoes, stepped through the door. His eyes searched the room, taking in the laughter, the shared joy. He hesitated at first, unsure, but soon he was drawn into the fold. Jonathan instinctively recognized this moment as a divine turning point. The stranger's presence felt heavy with purpose, and Jonathan felt his own heart quicken with possibilities. What did this young man bring to the table? Could he carry a story that would change everything? As Jonathan watched him step further into the warmth of their gathering, he questioned the depths of connection about to unfold. Could this be the first act of a larger journey? Would they uncover new paths through this unexpected arrival? The bakery awaited, its doors wide open for revelations yet to come. The sun began to dip below the horizon, casting a warm, golden light across the bakery. Jonathan and Ellen stood behind the counter, surrounded by laughter and the soft clinks of mugs and plates. The mingling scents of yeast, sugar, and spice filled the air like sweet prayer, invoking warmth and nostalgia. They looked across the bustling room, seeing faces aglow, eyes shining with hope. Just moments before their grand opening, Ellen leaned over to Jonathan, her voice soft yet filled with conviction. "It feels like a miracle, doesn't it? All these people, all this joy." "Yes," Jonathan replied, his heart swelling with gratitude. "I never imagined it would blossom like this." But even as he spoke, doubt still lingered, whispering insidious fears that maybe this was just a fleeting moment of grace. Suddenly, the young man who had entered earlier approached them, his demeanor shy, yet his gaze determined. "Can I help?" he asked, a spark of hope infused in his voice. Jonathan welcomed him with open arms, sensing the value of this new connection. "Absolutely. What is your name?" Jonathan inquired, guiding him to the counter. "Jacob," he said, a hint of reluctance mingling with eagerness. "I've been traveling for a while. I lost my job and I just wanted to find a place to belong." Ellen's eyes softened, recognizing the familiar ache in his heart, one they had felt themselves not long ago. "You've come to the right place, Jacob," she declared warmly. "We're sharing not just food, but dreams and stories." As Jonathan watched Jacob bond with the families, joyous laughter surfacing from the depths of shared experiences, hope began to surge like the dough rising in the oven. It was a moment of divine connection. It was exactly what they dreamt of, a place where people came not just to consume, but to belong. With every loaf and pastry handed across the counter, stories emerged like bursts of light. One after another, they filled the space not just with words, but with warmth. An elderly couple shared tales of how they met over a shared slice of pie years ago. Children giggled and squealed as they decorated cookies that bore tandem memories. Jacob, inspired by this newfound community, shared his journey of loss and resilience. And so it went, with laughter ringing and tears flowing, as walls built by loneliness crumbled with each exchange. Jonathan stood in awe, realizing that the bakery had transformed into a beacon more than a business. It was a testimony of faith and divine promise. As the last of the light faded and the day's warmth yielded to the cool of evening, Ellen stepped onto a chair, waving her hands to gather everyone's attention. The noise softened, eyes turned towards her. "Thank you all for being here tonight," she declared, her voice amplified by enthusiasm and gratitude. "We dreamt of building a home for stories, a place where our lives weave together, and tonight, I see that dream took its first steps." Cheers erupted, voices mingling into a beautiful chorus of agreement, affirmation, and connection, but there was still uncertainty in Jonathan's heart. What about tomorrow? He wondered. Could they sustain this bond? At that precise moment, Ellen caught his eye, a knowing smile spreading across her face. She gestured to the crowd, vibrant and alive. "This is just the beginning. We intend to open our doors regularly. This community can become more than sharing pastries. We can gather, share our traditions, and keep the love flowing. And we want you all along for this journey." Jonathan watched as the crowd buzzed with excitement, faces beaming with anticipation. That flicker of doubt began to extinguish, replaced by the undeniable presence of divine affirmation pulsing in the room. As they finished cleaning up and the guests began to say their goodbyes, Jonathan took a deep breath, feeling a profound sense of peace. His chest swelled with gratitude as he looked over at Ellen, who was animatedly chatting with Jacob, sharing ideas for new recipes and events. Together, he whispered to himself, "We learn and grow." The last guests filtered out, and as the door swung shut, a quiet settled over the bakery like a warm embrace. Jonathan and Ellen exchanged smiles of pure joy, realizing they had stepped into a calling larger than themselves. "Do you think we can really do this?" Jonathan finally asked, a hint of awe gripping his heart. Ellen stepped towards him, gripping his hands with gentle strength. "We were never meant to do this alone. With faith, love, and trust, there is no limit to what we can create." A surge of warmth washed over him, the understanding that they had entered a deeper connection with not just each other, but with their community. "You're right," he conceded, his heart now firm with resolve. "This is what we're meant for." Outside, the stars twinkled brightly in the night sky, as if heavens themselves were celebrating this beautiful beginning. Jonathan took Ellen's hand, and together they stepped into the future, knowing that their journey had only just begun, guided by faith, illuminated by love, and resplendent with shared hope. Connected in heart, they whispered their gratitude into the night, embracing the sacred energy that now bound them to this very moment. This was the manifestation of their dreams, a manifestation of divine power. Now is your moment. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss incredible faith stories like this one. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your thoughts, reactions, and testimonies about this inspiring finish. And don't wait even one more second, share this video with at least 5 friends who need a divine message in their lives. True servants of God understand the importance of spreading hope.